Shall we start, ma'am?
Yeah, Gesture Saravan sir has also come. Vinod sir has come. The students have logged in. Yes.
Shall I start, ma'am?
Yes, Nancy.
Your goal is not to be better than anyone else, but to be better than you used to be. A warm greetings to everyone to this webinar on Organic Agriculture, a sustainable, effective and economic farming supported by DBT Star College Scheme. The amicable person joined here today with us is Mr. Nikhil Bose, AgriGenome Labs Private Limited, Assistant Manager, Client Operations, Kerala.
It is true that a prayer that comes from the heart can move mountains, increase your faith, and bring you closer to God. Now I invite Sonia Sharon of 3rd BSc Microbiology for the prayer song.
Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. And here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Thank you, Sonia. Now, I invite Mr. Sheetal Anil Kumar, Assistant Professor and Course Coordinator, Department of Microbiology, to consign the welcome address.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good afternoon, everyone. On this auspicious afternoon, I, Sheetal Anil Kumar, on behalf of management, principal, dean, staff, and students solely invite and welcome you all for this webinar, which is supported by the DBT Star Scheme. CMS College of Science and Commerce is an autonomous institute affiliated to Bharatiyar University and is re-accredited to A+ with points of 3.38 by the NAAC and credited with DBT Star status under the Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. I am really privileged to have the pleasant task of welcoming our resource person of the day, Mr. Nikhil Bose, Assistant Manager, Client Operation, AgriGenome Kerala, and also he is our alumnus of 2009 batch. Despite of his busy schedule, he has accepted our invitation and is here to share his knowledge with us. We are extremely happy by your presence. It is simply impossible to adequately describe the significance of the role played by our principal, Dr. H. Balakrishnan, CMS College of Science and Commerce. His constant support is always a moral boost to us. Welcome you, sir. From my bottom of the heart, I welcome our management, CMS Educational and Charitable Trust, who is the backbone of this institution. I extend my greetings to the Dean Academics, Mr. H.R. Vivek, and the Dean Administrator, Dr. V. Sujata, who are always with us and encouraging us in all our endeavor. I am pleased to welcome the STAR Scheme Coordinator and the Director of School of Biological Sciences, Dr. T. Vinod Kumar, for leading us in all our activities. Let me welcome my fellow course coordinators and colleagues of biotechnology and biochemistry to this webinar. I would fail in my duties if I do not acknowledge the pillars of Department of Microbiology, my dear fellow mates. Without your tireless and meticulous efforts, all these activities would have gone futile. I am really indebted to our team. Also, it is my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to all our vibrant students. Once again, welcome you all to this webinar.
It's a gratitude to welcome you, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. D. Lata, Associate Professor, Department of Microbiology, to introduce our chief guest.
Thank you, Ayappan. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker and our alumnus, Mr. Nikhil Bose. He completed his undergraduation in botany from MG University, post-graduation in microbiology in CMS College of Science and Commerce in 2011. He worked as junior quality controller in Podas Biotech Palakkad, a customer support associate in Science Genome Labs. And at present, he is working in Agri Genome Lab Private Limited as assistant manager. So we are all very proud to have you here, Nikhil. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Leaders never use the word failure. They look upon setbacks as learning experience. Now, I invite Mr. Nikhil Bose, Assistant Manager, Client Operations, Private Limited Company, Kochi, Kerala, to take up the session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for such a warm introduction, and your humble beginnings always should start like that. So, first of all, wait, let me show my face. It's been a pleasure, sitting in front of you here. Actually, I was a former, as all our teachers conveyed, I was a former student, and I cannot believe this. I'm getting this opportunity to present, my thoughts and our experiences in my life as a webinar. And I'm much grateful to you all for being here, for your time, and I appreciate that very much. So without any further ado, let's jump right back into the presentation. Okay, I hope screen is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, let me thank everyone who made this possible. Our principal and guiding light, Dr. H. Balakrishnan, Dr. T. Vinod Kumar, the Director of School of Biological Sciences, the course coordinators of Biotech, Biochemistry, Sheetal ma'am, the course coordinator of Microbiology. Thank you, ma'am, for bringing the spotlight on me. My mentors, Geeta ma'am, Shantipriya ma'am, Lata ma'am, Venkatracha sir, Bintu ma'am, Anchana ma'am, and all the sincere and loving staff of Biotech and Biochemistry. Most importantly, my little brothers and sisters who are listening to this right now. Thank you all for your efforts in making this happen. Now you must tolerate me for the next hour, so let's start. And please keep a pen and paper handy. We can have a discussion after the presentation to clear any questions and doubts. All right, so first of all, let me give you a short introduction about myself. My parents were very keen on growing vegetables and plants before I was even born. Once I started walking along, I used to help them and get my hands dirty. But the smell of cow dung, neem cake, and bone meal was too much for me, and I used to feel disgusted, to be honest. Wherever we went, they would take plant cuttings, seeds, and bring them home with love and care. I actually thought they were mad. Now, after so many years making Jeevamrit by mixing the cow dung and cow urine with my hand, walking barefoot on the soil and talking to the plants and thanking them for the harvest, yes, I realized that it is madness in its unadulterated, raw, primal form. All the botanical textbooks we learned had huge paragraphs on deficiencies of nitrogen and the chemicals to rectify it. But there were small unnoticed references to organic remedies to rectify and help the plants. There were 1 or 2 lines about the microbes which could benefit the soil. Maybe there were topics on mycorrhizas and the nodules on a pea plant. When we learned microbiology, we learned about the world of various microbes, their types, and their roles in the environment. But there was a bridge, a vast network of unseen potential between all these topics. Between the plants, between the microbes, between the soil and the environment. Finding where we stand was in this network was a curious case I had to solve. Without my knowing, I was already immersed in it. After working a couple of jobs, I winded up in an organic farm with my long-term friend, Mr. Vajesh, who was also my classmate here in CMS, and Mr. Rahul, who knew every organic method in the farm and was a veteran considering us. We were producing biofertilizers and biocontrol agents, but I was more interested in seeing the effects in the soil and the plants. Unknowingly, I was exploring the world of organic farming. Slowly, the dots began to connect. The huge paragraphs melted away into lessons of life. In the rain and the sun, we walked in the fields. We talked to the cows and the sheep and the earthworms. They talked all about the story of life in the compost pile. The strawberry plants smiled as we became kids again. To find something new, sometimes we must lose what we have. To understand the way of nature, we must forget our graduation certificates, our doctorates, and even our beliefs and superstitions, so that during the observation phase, we are unbiased. A biased observation will add to the misinformation already surrounding organic farming. Most of the beliefs and superstitions were scare tactics, as most of them were not natural, but a creation of our society. We must always remember that agriculture was not created by the society, but the society and our social structure was created by agriculture. Just like we forget that technology was derived from science and not vice versa. With new technologies, we are in a constant process of deciphering the nature. Yes, to an extent we have succeeded, but nature will provide another set of code once we decipher the first set and then another, and so on. We humans still like to play God and try to rule the world with our logic and reasoning, and we forget that we are just a tiny speck of stardust in this humongous universe. Then why cannot we try to play human than God? Try to use technology to aid nature and the environment, and try to be the one with nature and not a separate entity. We can and we have to. We are destroying our planet every second. We are losing thousands of species of plants and organisms to the pollution and in-plant modernization. Can we reverse the climatic changes and issues of malnutrition, unemployment, and ignorance? Yes, we can. Together we can with sustainable solutions and regenerative farming practices. Natural farming methods can even reverse the climate change, as studies shown by Rodale Institute in a recently published paper. Just by adopting organic and natural farming practices, we can bring about a change. Unbelievable? Yes. The change starts from you and from me, our homes, our friends, their family, and slowly the whole community around us. Always remember, the father of our nation is the man who was the forebringer of change, Mahatma Gandhi. Let us follow his footsteps towards sustainable homes, communities, schools, colleges, residential areas, footpaths. Let us plant fruit trees by the side of the highways, roads, medicinal plants in school gardens, edible food forests in flats and apartments, turn lawns into vegetable gardens, empty terraces into terrace gardens. Let us all start a revolution, an eco-friendly and organic revolution, and let us call it the food revolution. So let's look into what is natural farming and organic farming. There have been many definitions to both. I will explain both to the best of my knowledge and one system of practices as well called permaculture, which we are practicing now. The pioneer of natural farming, whose work and teaching I was influenced by, was Sir Masanobu Fukuoka. He was a man of science and a trained microbiologist and an agricultural scientist specializing in plant pathology. Yes, he wore the same lab coat we all wear now and gave it up when he realized the key was not in human intervention but observation of the nature. The 5 principles that he suggested were no tilling or no plowing of the soil, no fertilizers, weeding is unnecessary, instead use of live mulch and plant cover crops to suppress weeds. Applications of pesticides or herbicides are unnecessary. Pruning of fruit trees is unnecessary. He faced major criticisms from all over the world as he published his first book in 1947 and the second one, which changed my life, the One Straw Revolution in 1975. So let's put natural farming in a rough outline as growing suitable plants as per the environment with minimal or no disturbance to the soil and without industrially made soil additives or pesticides. For doing this, a constant observation is always necessary, and understanding of one's own farmland and area is mandatory. During the times of Masanobu Fukuoka, the technology was not that much advanced, but now we have the assistance of technology to understand and study about the patterns of rainfall, humidity, and all the environmental factors that bring about changes into the farming structure. So if you look at natural farming, that was the case. And you look at organic farming, it can be considered as an offshoot of natural farming, where we are using soil additives, but strictly from the nature and not chemically synthesized. We can use and prepare homemade organic amendments to the soil, but when you buy it from a store, it adds to the momentum that we are having right now. That is why some agents like some agents which have chemical origin are also added into this structures of organic amendments. So the best policy is not to buy from a store and to make our own fertilizer. Hence, when you buy from a store, it can be considered as a modern child of natural farming. We Indians were practicing organic farming methods along till the introduction of so-called Green Revolution. To call one's farm produce as organic, these things should always be kept in mind. When you're starting from the seed, you should select native seeds, and from the seed to the finish, all the growing medium, your soil, your potting mix, the materials that you are growing in, the soil amendments like I told before, the fertilizers and pest repellents, they should be biodegradable and eco-friendly and never should pose a threat to any other living soul or any other living system. They should not pollute our environment. There should not be any residues left if you are using an organic amendment, which will be absorbed by the microbes and the plants in the soil. But when it comes to imported or exported organic materials, we always sure to read the label. In some countries, permitted amounts of chemical additives are used, even in organic farming, which doesn't pose a threat to the health as per their guidelines. But when you come to India, if you are talking about an organic produce, it means that no chemicals were used, no pesticides were used, and there will be no chemical residues left. Hence, the term organic can be confusing in its own usage, like I said. But when it comes to India, we use organic. That means there is no toxins, there is no pollution, it is safe to eat, and it is healthy and rich. Sri Subhash Palekar, who is the father of ZBN, the zero budget natural farming, was against this word organic itself. But the word is now stuck, and instead of discriminating it, we need to make use of it. You know why? In 2018, 2.8 million organic producers were reported by the Research Institute of Organic Agriculture. India continues to be the country with the highest number of producers, followed by Uganda and Ethiopia. According to the latest FIBL survey on organic agriculture worldwide, organic farmland increased by 20 lakh hectares, and organic retail sales also continue to grow, reaching another all-time high, as shown by the data from 186 countries. You can look at the statistics, which was recorded in 2018. If you can keep up with this increase in the recent years, in the recent time as well, after the COVID alert, we have meticulously tried to solve the financial and the food crisis that we are facing right now. And there is one simple technology that can reverse all this global warming and can, fund and help people to survive in such situations. That technology is called plants. That technology we are not utilizing to the full extent, but you should, and the statistics show that itself. If we can look at the sales, people are very conscious about what they buy from the markets nowadays. If they see a label called organic, they trust the label and they go with their heart and buy it. If you can look at the trend all over the world, you can see how much the retail sales have gone up. The biggest market still is USA. That is why I guess most of the exports from India are going to USA. Most of the organic produce that is made in our country is not consumed by us Indians. That is one sad fact, but most of it is exported to other countries. Now, let us look at the one we are following in our garden. See, you can see on top of December 2019, it's the top view of our garden. And you can see March 2020, that is before just summer, how much less green we had. All we did was make sugar culture beds. Sugar culture beds are compostable, in situ, on-site composting beds, which I have made some videos. You can also check out that in our Back to Earth YouTube channel. Anyway, I'm not promoting my channel right now, so let's get back. Look at one of the following in our garden, and this is called regenerative or sustainable agriculture. This is the one we need to adapt if you're planning to set up a farm or agri-business. Just imagine, if you are getting some raw material, you need to find the supply and the source for the same. But if you have the raw material in your farm, in your home, then you don't need to look anywhere. So you have to create a system where all these things are available to you and are cycled. Thus, we can design such a practice and lifestyle as per our area, as per our location, as per the raw materials availability. Such a system of package of practices is called permaculture. The first was coined by Sir Bill Mollison and his student David Holmgren. Permaculture is very efficient in converting arid lands and desert lands into food forests. First, it indicated permanent agriculture, but now it has more to permanent culture. In his words, permaculture is all about working with the nature rather than against it. Permaculture sees agriculture as a part of our own life activities and treats it as a system than a single entity. So these are the permaculture ethics. There are three main permaculture ethics that surround all other activities. The first one is care of the earth. Second one is care of the people. Third, fair share. And then you have 12 design principles. 12 design principles, if I have to explain it, will be a huge topic. I have done that already in another video, so I'll share you the link. First, let us brief about earth care. Our systems and agricultural practices should not harm or exploit the nature, its life and natural habitat. It should preserve the naturally occurring flora and fauna and add to the diversity of life. Polyculture, growing multiple crops, rotating crops, etc. is to be practiced than monoculture. Growing spinach, corn, beans, plantain, tapioca, yam, turmeric, ginger, etc. can ensure that we have diverse produce to consume as well as supply. This polyculture reduces the incidence of pests and invites more beneficial birds and insects to our garden. Incorporating fish, poultry, cattle ensures that we have food as well as fertilizers of our own. Energies are stored and utilized to full extent. Nothing should be wasted. In a place like Kerala, we have lots of rainfall. So if we succeed in capturing that rain energy and converting it into usable energy or usable systems, then we have a success. We can use that to irrigate our plants. We can use that to have aquaculture. Even hydroponics, you can do it. So the possibilities are endless once you harvest energy. So let's recycle and upcycling. Recycling is something which you convert another matter into another matter and use it. When you think of upcycling, there is no conversion process. You are simply using it for another purpose. So all these activities harvest and store energy. Just imagine you are simply throwing off a plastic bottle into the road, and this plastic bottle just lies there as a waste. People have started using plastic bottles and all other bottles, whatever they can find, to start growing plants, to start growing water plants, to keep fish. All of things are endless possibilities if us humans put our minds into it. People care. Our systems should provide food and materials needed to the people practicing it, and the surplus should flow into the society. When Masanobu Fukuoka had a farm, his students or his disciples, they had to farm whatever they had to eat. Can you imagine us farming the food that we have to eat or our family has to eat? It was very difficult. So from that difficult situation, human mind will start to observe and interact with nature in unparalleled ways and methods. That is why he was such a successful person in spreading words about natural farming. Our produce should always reach the local people and the market. When we are planting crops, we should always think and observe what our local people, what our neighbors are having, what our neighbors are eating for dinner. Sorry, not for dinner, they're buying from the shop for making dinner. So if you know the demand, then the supply can be produced from our end. The failure in organic farming is that people do a lot of organic farming, but they do not understand the concept that it should not be like a commercial farming where you grow an acre of paddy or you grow acre of fruit trees where you grow a ton of vegetables of the same kind. We should practice diverse multi-cropping so that, it will be boring if you take tapioca for dinner every night. You should have yams. You should have other fruits. You should have berries. So you should care for the people around us and for ourselves. Fair share. We should not take more than that we need. The excess of waste is always returned back to the nature. As I said, Back to Earth is the name of our YouTube channel. The food and produce we must get be equally shared among ourselves and the organisms around us. Some fruits and vegetables are to be shared with pests. As you can see in the picture, most of the fruit trees, that if we leave it uncovered, the farmers are now covering the fruit trees so that the birds won't get into their harvest. So what will the birds eat? That question should be answered. That question needs to be answered. Like I said earlier, if our government or our organizations or ourselves start to plant fruit trees by the road, will you ever see a boy or a small child begging for food? No. You should have fruit trees instead of the shade-giving plants that we are propagating. If we had mangoes everywhere, just imagine how happy the kids would be. Like when we were kids, we used to have mango trees everywhere. So fair share means everybody should get their share in this world. So let's look at the farming system that we follow in our small garden. We have large trees, mainly teak, which provide us with dry and green leaves. We usually cut the tree branches once in a year, which gives us ample produce to make compost, which we used to make compost, but now we are making in situ compost called on-site composting. We are making hugelkultur garden beds. Hugelkultur is a German term for hill culture. We pile up the hugelkultur. How we make the hugelkultur mountain? We should collect all the dry branches, leaves, and the green matter, whatever organic material is available to us. We should first plan a layout and then arrange all these hugelkultur materials, what shoot compost, what the earthworms can eat, what the microbes can eat, in a raised garden bed or a shallow garden bed, and pour some soil on top of it. Once you do that, after 2 weeks, you can start planting the plants or the plant list that you have in your hand. The advantages of a hugelkultur bed is that under the soil, there will be the organic matter, which will act as a sponge and preserve the water so that the plants can easily absorb the water locked in between the capillaries. And then all this water can be used by the plant and the nutrients that is being decomposed. And the plant stays healthy and vigorous without any other assistance. If we practice it correctly, we can do this for desert areas where little or no irrigation is needed. We also have a pond and a well in our garden. So when it rains heavily, all our terrace drainage pipes run off the water to our pond and well. And once that also is full, we get waterlogging in our garden. So when we get waterlogging, the only way to preserve and protect our plants is to have a high raised hugelkultur garden bed. We also have fish in our pond. We used to grow tilapia, anabas, and most of the local species of tilapia. So we used to have, fish fries for lunch. If you want to have a fish fry, it's very simple. You go outside, catch a fish, clean it, fry it. Very enjoyable actually. Anyway, we have water plants in the pond and soil in the bottom, hence contributing to the nitrogen cycle. As you all are aware of the nitrogen cycle, so we require soil. I have seen so many systems, so many aquaponics and so many aquaculture systems failing only because people does not know about the nitrogen cycle. There should be bacteria, there should be plants. Only a full ecological system can adapt and buffer the changes. Otherwise, it's very, very tiring, very tenuous job. I have seen people using so many chemicals, so many pH testers, so many filters, so much effort and financials are put into maintaining a balanced equilibrium system, water system. But we can achieve all that without all that by making it natural, by adding soil, by adding water plants. We also have hens. We used to have turkeys. Now we have hens who lay eggs which are very delicious. And we also have Azolla and Lemna. Those are water plants which we mix into the plant, into the hen or the chicken feed, so that they also benefit and the cycling is complete. So it's a cycle. It's a setting up of cycles, one system to another system to another system. We cycle the energy, and all the energy, along with all the beneficial microbes are also collected in the system and stored in the system and passed on to the next system. If you look at recent advancements in scientific data, we can synthesize and we can actually isolate the DNA and RNA from the bacteria without culturing. As you know that all the microorganisms, only 1% we can grow in our lab. Others we cannot, and it's same thing as of called dark genes. There is a vast amount of data and information that we do not have access to right now. What scientists have found out from a grass field, they have isolated a bacteria, and they have found out that it has antibiotic resistance. It can produce antibiotics, which is never heard of. None of the bacteria that we have in current industrial production of antibiotics can compete with that. But that strain of bacteria isolated from a grass field cannot be grown in vitro. So these are the challenges we look at, when we talk about organic farming and the science. Science can enhance our effects in organic farming, but we can never decipher the full extent or the full course of nature. So next, we have started using seed cups. Maybe like in the past 2 years, we have never used plastic seed trays. That's like a waste. If you add into the waste, it lies there. It is of no use once it is broken. So we use plastic. Instead of plastic, we use paper cups. We used to have recycled paper cups, and we used to get used paper cups, and we will wash it and use it for planting our seeds. But because of the COVID, we are not using the reusable ones, but we are using the fresh ones. And the root growth is amazing. The root that the plant has when you sprout in a cup, in a paper cup, and you transplant that, amazing. It's amazing. The transplantation ratio is amazing. If you look at seed trays, because of the size of the root ball, and we are not even disturbing the plant, we are just unwrapping the paper cup, and we are planting as such, as you can see in the figure. We also have sprinkler systems set up. As I told, the permaculture system also looks at how and when we get the sunlight, the wind, the way of the water. So all these things have to be taken care if you are going to have a successful farm, if you are going to have success in growing plants and vegetables. So ours is a very small plot. This allows to have the sprinkler system allows to have different zones of dry soil, damp soil, heavy sunlight, average sunlight, and shaded area. So as per the requirement and as per the area, we have to choose the plants, which plants we are growing. We can grow shade-loving plants in those areas which have partial sunlight or shade. We can grow arid plants which does not require any water at all. So that is a garden system. So as I told you earlier, all these cycles of transfer of matter, it's not only just energy or the energy or the potential energy or the kinetic energy that is being moved around, or the bio energy that is in the bacteria. But along with it also, there is also cycling of the various organisms that is happening. If you look at the organisms present in cow dung, we are making Jivamrita, we are giving them a boost, we are growing them. It's actually like we are growing them we are subculturing them, and we are increasing the like we used to make fertilizers, biofertilizers in a fermenting system. We are exponentially increasing the amount of microbes present, and we are giving them a chance to repopulate the soil. So when you look at that aspect, the work we are doing is very, very vast. The work we are doing is very beneficial. It is something that we used to do. We used to see cattle here and there roaming around, and we used to have cow dung scattered here and there. It was disgusting, but when you look at the microbiome, it's amazing. So what we can decipher and translate, what we know even in the genetics in molecular biology level, is very less compared to what we do not know. Nature holds the key to so many unimaginable treasure chests that we have not even found yet. Yes, we need to be humble in front of such an enormous force that has shaped our lives for millennia. Whatever name you call your organic or farming strategies, the key aspects to remember to grow natural and organic food are: we are building the soil, not building plants. A rich topsoil with humus should be the farmer's investment, which he should build with time and organic matter. The better the soil, the better the plants, with resistance and vigor and high yield. Plants grow on their own if we give them soil rich in humus, organic matter, soil microbes, enough water and ample sunlight. Growing poultry, cattle, or fish and fruit trees will give us extra food as well as manure to enrich the soil and fuel to cook food. They are also natural tillers and does not need any human intervention to fertilize the land if managed correctly. Tilling or digging up the soil should be minimal or not necessary at all. Even if tilled, the soil should never be left bare, or the UV light and the sunlight will kill off the microbes that are present in the rich fertile soil. Mulching and cover crops need to be maintained to provide optimum living conditions for soil, micro and macroorganisms. That's it. Too much sunlight can harm the soil organisms. Crop rotation and multi-cropping should be practiced. It is easy for pests to infest if same crops are planted every year and all together. Planting flower and native wild plants will attract predators of pests and provide shelter to various species of organisms which cannot thrive in a concrete jungle. This will enhance the biodiversity and act as a haven for all of nature's children. Aim should be have to diverse foods and an edible food forest which can sustain families and replenish Earth's fertility. A loss of a single variety of crop will never be of issue to the farmer, as he has reserve crops and mixed crops to aid him to feed his family and the neighbors even in times of crisis. Consider one man's waste as another man's treasure. Always look out for organic matter which might be of no use to others. Make use of it and produce manure, mulch, or even planters for your plants. Always make sure no chemicals were used in the materials. Put a price on your produce as per the utilization of energy, materials, and always consider possible losses. Those who value their health will understand the cost as they know what the food they are consuming was grown with love and care. As students of science, this is the right time to join the organic movement, as there are so many misinformed people and people trying to make money out of it. The opportunities in this area is vast. We need more people who can understand the science as a representation of nature itself. An art of an artist whose works are unfathomable. All of us, me, you, our families, the future generation need to make a stand for what is right and promote ethical and sustainable farming. We need to bring back the light into the darkness of ignorance. May the science come out of the lab and into the field. Wishing everyone all the very best in your life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your very informative and interesting session.